Welcome back, everyone. And it's hard to know whether your presence here is driven by your need for a new iPad or the fact that you know we've got this fantastic panel. I know so many people on this panel, but I'm going to ask each of them just to give us maybe 3 or 4 minutes to set their stall out, and then we're going to kick off into a discussion. So don't feel shy about asking questions. You might need, I always need to make a bit of a note after someone has, said something, just so that I remember after everyone has spoken that, we can actually, so you've actually got the question fresh in your mind. So we have Rachel. Now, Rachel, I've known for many years, and you've moved through a number of different organisations. So just let us know what you're doing now and what you would really like everyone in this room to join in with.
Great. Thank you very much, Maggie, and hello everybody, lovely to be here. So I'm Rachel Neaman. I was CEO of Go On UK, Martha Lane Fox's digital skills charity, until we merged with her latest initiative, doteveryone, in April. One thing that I was talking to a friend last night about a lot of the themes that we've talked about today, and I just wondered how many people here have seen the film I, Daniel Blake? Yeah? So you've seen it twice. Perfect. 2 hands go up. Great. The reason I raise that is because there were 2 things when I saw it that really, really struck me and that I think really resonate today. So the first was the very real consequences of people not having access to digital skills or the internet, and the spiralling consequences, the spiral of consequences that gets people into. Second thing was the fact that what became very clear to me was there is no one-size-fits-all way of solving people's problems. So the tick box approach to dealing with people does not work. Now, the film, I have to say, is a little bit over the top, and it is a little bit unsubtle, but I think it is a fantastic, what's the word? I'm looking for what's the word? A parable. Parable, that's the word I'm trying to find. I think it's a fantastic parable, actually, for a lot of the things that we've been talking about today. So what we have been doing at doteveryone and at Go On UK before that is exactly that, trying to find out what works with the most difficult to engage with audiences, or the audiences that are probably least likely to come forward and ask for digital support. So we've been running 2 programmes of work, one in Croydon and one in Lewisham, which are both highly diverse and highly populated boroughs in London, to really test out what works with groups like homeless people, like older people, like young people not in employment, education or training, etc. To really think, we've got to find a way of reaching people, of understanding their needs, of really getting to this customer need that we hear about so much, really understanding that so that we can then find approaches that work, that can then be adopted by other parts of the country, that can then be scaled up, that we can then start making a real impact and a real difference across the country. Because there are lots of similar reasons why people are in this situation, but then none of them are identical. And until we actually understand on a one-to-one basis what motivates a particular person to go online, to understand and take their first steps with digital, we're never going to be able to help them and to reach them. So I'd like to talk a bit more later on when we have our discussion perhaps about how we can do that collectively, how we can really reach these people. We have our heat map of digital exclusion, which some of you may have seen, which I think I talked about in the very, very, very first Tinder conference I came to in 2014, I think maybe. And that is a really interesting tool to help us to identify the types of reasons why people are going to be disenfranchised or hard to reach or more marginalised in society. And that also shows us that there isn't a single reason for any of it. So community driven initiatives, cross-sector initiatives, working with the specific needs of a specific group in mind, to me, is absolutely critical.
James.
Hi, I'm James Speake. I'm the head of digital at Good Things Foundation. That's just coming to me now. I've been planted here to plug Learn My Way. Well, ish. But basically, my premise is that Learn My Way is a great tool for reaching those hardest to reach if used in certain ways. Those of you who know the tool will know that it's undergone a radical redesign in recent months, and we've been working on that for the past year. The important thing about how we've done it, I think, also gives us some lessons on how to engage the audience as well, because we've taken a very user-focused approach to building the product. We've been out there testing face-to-face with individuals. We've been looking at how people use the product, and trying to go through these really quick loops of testing something, learning from it, and refocusing what we do. And I think the great thing for us is that we've got an amazing network that allows us to reach these people that are taking those first steps online. Because if we didn't have access to those people, we could not understand what it is they're going through. I really struggle to imagine not having digital skills. So designing something without actually putting it in front of those individuals is folly, really. What we have learned, though, is that there are lots of barriers to people being online. Some of them are motivational, some of them are cost, but the things we were able to focus on whilst building the product were really around those that we can do something about in the sort of design, the web development community, the UX community, around the jargon we use, the design patterns that we end up using. We think people understand, but they don't. Even something as simple as Google, you watch a first-time internet user using it, they will not go to the search box in the middle that you'd expect them to. They'll read the headline that's at the bottom. It's very simple things that you find out whilst testing these things with the audience. So what we're trying to do with the product is to address those barriers and make the barrier to being able to interact with digital as low as possible, and trying to get that word out to other developers in the community as well. Gov.uk have done massive amounts of work in terms of trying to make things simple, and ultimately, as a development community, we should be making websites as simple as they can possibly be, and that automatically lowers those barriers. It wouldn't be right to mention Learn My Way, though, without saying that it works absolutely best as a blended approach. On its own, it's good, but together with a blended approach, some people say one-to-one on its own is good as well. We think the two things together work really well. So understanding the individual first, so that you can then tailor your approach, give them a friendly and personal service, whilst at the same time, and this is really, really key for us, is that what we need to do for every person who gets online is to produce confident and independent internet users. We want people to feel that they can do it themselves. They've learnt it for themselves, by themselves, and therefore they're confident to then go on and use the internet in any situation. As far as Learn My Way is concerned, we think this is pretty successful, because our most recent survey said that after 3 months after using Learn My Way, primarily in centres, over 90% are still using the internet, which I think is a fantastic achievement.
Brilliant.
My name is Kathryn Flagner. I work for Cumbria County Council in the Libraries Department. I'm based in Workington, which is on the west coast, and I was involved, I co-led a Tinder-funded research project with a colleague of mine in Whitehaven, which is about 8 miles away. So it was a dual centre project we ran. And the idea was to obviously engage people digitally. We were asked to identify a particular excluded group or hard to reach group, and we identified people with physical disabilities and also learning difficulties. We identified those particular groups because in both Allerdale and Copeland, where Workington and Whitehaven are based, about 40% of the population identify themselves as being disabled in some way. And a lot of those people are actually of working age as well, and a significant number actually aren't working. So we were very concerned about this group that we felt weren't actually using our services, weren't coming into our libraries even. So we were quite eager to engage with them more than we actually did. And we wanted to get a wide age range. It could have been quite easy, I think, to sort of identify all people's homes and go into all people's homes. But we didn't want that. We wanted a wide age range of people. We identified groups through working with our neighbourhood development service, who knew of groups such as disabled groups that met people that met socially a lot of the time, lip reading groups, an organisation called West House that works with people with learning difficulties as well. So we mainly identified people through those groups, and we worked with them either in the libraries or in their settings, or with mobile devices, because we're very aware that a lot of people have got mobile phones or tablets and probably don't use them as much as they could, or get as much out of them as would be possible. We had 3 things that we needed to do. We were given the target of getting X number of people onto Learn My Way, which is very good. Also onto a health platform. And the library service itself, we have an awful lot of digital material, downloadable talking books, e-books, magazines, that really aren't used to the full extent. They're quite underused. So we wanted to promote those services as well. But we were very concerned that it wasn't just a tick exercise of hitting the right number of people, getting the right number of people on the right number of sites. We were very concerned that the people involved would actually get something out of being involved in the project and would feel that they've benefited from it and that it had an impact on their lives going forward as well. So what we actually did before we actually started working with them on the hardware, we actually, staff members sat with them one-to-one and talked to them about what they were interested in. So when it came to the delivery of the sessions, it was all targeted and geared to the interests and the needs of each individual person, which was quite labour intensive, and really we wouldn't have had the staff to do that. So we realised that we'd need to get other people in. So we got volunteers, went to our local further education college, where they ran a course on adult social care, and part of the course was that people had to do 100 hours of volunteering. Normally they did that volunteering in old people's homes or care homes, so we were asking them to do something quite different. And I think one of the really interesting things about the project was the spin-off effect that it had on those young people who were volunteers, and they probably got as much out of it as the people who we were looking at as clients, the people with the learning difficulties and the disabilities. So it was both sets of people learning together about workplace, about if you don't know what to do, ask somebody else, and not being scared to say, I don't know what to do here, and just to ask somebody else instead.
And that's always the key to it, isn't it? Is that if both the like the volunteer and the person who's being helped, that the actual experience takes them on. That's so right. That the volunteer wants to do more, and the other one, the person being helped, that it then goes off and uses those skills. That's absolutely perfect.
It is.
So So, sorry, I was just going to say, I was going to hear from Leigh,
sorry.
and then what we can do is we can open up the discussion.
Right, sorry.
No, that's okay.
I won't talk too long, although some of you in the audience might be surprised at that know me. So I'm Leigh, I work at Lloyds Banking Group, and for those of you that don't know, we've got a strategic partnership with the Good Things Foundation. It's going to take me quite a while to replace that because it's programmed into my head. But a lot of you guys, Leanna up there, I think, is one of the centres that we help. So we've got a great partnership with you. We've got quite early days, so only for about the last year we've been working together, and our strategy is really, we've got, we're the biggest bank in the UK, we've got 11 brands, we've got 80,000 colleagues, we've got a huge database of understanding about what customers are actually doing. We have a broad range of customer base as well with the Halifax brands and the Lloyds Bank brands, and you know, because money is ubiquitous, it is so important that we have a good relationship with our customers, and at the touch points which matter to them, we're helping them use and understand digital skills to be able to help them with their lives. So we work with the foundation to produce Insight and Go On UK, and lots of other partners to, doteveryone, to understand what the issues are and to be able to help sector and policy makers be able to help them by looking at the actual data of how people are transacting. So it's right interesting to say what somebody answers in a survey about their digital skills to actually what their online behaviour is, and we're lucky enough to be able to have access to that. The other thing that we do is use our colleagues, and they've been brilliant. We've now got 22,000 colleagues in every nation, in every community across the group, who have made a commitment. It's not a complex commitment, it's a really simple one, to be able to help at least 2 people in their communities or 2 organisations with their digital skills. And they can do that either via directly, or we've got an API link to the centres now, and that's just starting to kick in and form those automatic relationships where people are reaching out from our colleague base into the centres. The question that you posed, which is, you know, what would be useful for me, is just to take your ideas. You know, Helen and her team are always been really helpful in just saying, Leigh, have you thought about doing this or whatever? Because we've got scale and the volume of our customers. You know, got over 20 million people right across all income brackets and socioeconomic profiles. What could I be doing more effectively back at the ranch, back at the group, to be able to help you and to be able to help our end recipients? That's really why I'm here today. So any ideas, I'm on Twitter, or you can catch me after this. It'd be really great to hear.
Great, Leigh, thanks very much. Kate?
Thank you. My name's Kate Joseph. I am half of the co-directors of the Digital Economy Unit in the Department of Culture, Media and Sport. I say half because I job share with somebody called Claudia Kenyatta. So if you see somebody who looks completely different from me saying the same thing, that's my job share partner, hopefully saying the same thing. We run the Digital Economy Unit, which is responsible for all of this agenda, but also issues such as digital infrastructure, mobile, broadband, sort of access issues, as well as the people involved. And I spent this morning talking about some of the announcements that the Chancellor made about putting £1 billion into digital infrastructure. Yesterday I was talking to a bunch of lawyers and surveyors and telecoms companies about that this morning. Here this afternoon to talk about the people who will use that infrastructure, which, to be honest, is an environment I'm much more comfortable in. I also am interested to hear sort of ideas and thoughts and views on a range of different sort of challenges and dilemmas that I think that in government we are grappling with. We've got a lot to do on digital inclusion. We have done a lot, but there is a huge amount more to be done. And we are very interested to hear where you think we could best put our efforts, because it's not the job of government to duplicate or replicate anything that has been talked about so far. It's our job to think about how we can convene and channel a lot of that effort in the right direction and bring people together. And so I think I'm very interested to hear your thoughts about how we can do more of that. There are a couple of other areas where I'm keen to hear about ideas. So first of all, we're interested in the hardest to reach people. We also have a Prime Minister who, as you might know, is interested in people who are just about managing. There are different views about what that means. I don't think that we necessarily have it completely nailed down. But what I think is fairly clear to us is that there is a digital element with both. So both the people who you might consider hardest to reach, who are maybe not managing at all, and the people who are just about managing, and what can we do to get those people online and give those people basic digital skills that they need, and how can we work on both of those agendas, I think. And then the second area is, and it's been touched on already a little bit, what are the incentives here around this whole agenda? We talk a lot about motivation, and motivation is incredibly important. But I think looking at it through the lens of incentives, what are the incentives that will get people online? What are the touch points where we can be reaching people, and where are the points that where they can start to see a real benefit? And I think if we can do a sort of slightly better job of identifying what some of those are, we'll be halfway there in terms of our challenge.
Yeah, and I think also perhaps sometimes being honest in reflecting the things that don't work that you thought were so obvious and would work, and then actually doesn't make any difference whatsoever. You know, because I think sometimes there is always that pressure when you're reporting back on funding to look like everything was marvellous and goodness me, what a success. Whereas actually it would be so helpful if part of the report went, this bit was great, this bit was not so great, this bit we would never, under any circumstances, repeat, because it didn't make any difference, and that would save so many people not doing the same thing again because they feel this is a good idea. Okay, a really diverse panel. Let's kick off with the questions. I did think my main thing here is whether or not that camera is insured properly.
Hi, I'm John Tolbert, trustee of Computer Friendly. We're a charity that's been teaching computing to the elderly and disadvantaged for 14 years. 14 years ago, we could get a class of 30 people who were knocking at the door wanting to learn computers. Now we struggle to get 8 people, and the reason seems to be that the easy pickings have come and we've taken those, but there's a lot of people who are sort of hiding, they're in the woodwork, and we can't get them out without a lot of advertising or cajoling. So it'd be interesting to hear what the panel's view on how we can coax them out of the woodwork.
Okay, so.
Interesting point. I mean, I think the thing that we have learned the most from the year that we've spent working with these sorts of communities in Croydon and Lewisham is that people who are hard to reach are hard to reach. And they are hard to reach for a reason. And as you say, the people who are the initial adopters, the early adopters, and the people who want to do it are probably already doing it. So I think there are 2 things here. You talk about you want to teach people computers. I think one thing that's come out of a lot of the talk today, which I completely agree with, is perhaps we should stop that focus on computers, on digital. What is it they want to do, and how is it that doing it digitally is going to make it easier for them to do it? Because I think if I were asked if I wanted to learn about computers, to be completely honest, I'd probably say no. But if I was asked, do I want to be able to keep in contact with my family who lives a long way away from me, or do I want to be able to get my shopping delivered to my door, or do I want to understand more about my health condition, I'd be much more likely to say yes.
Yeah, I agree. Selling the benefits is good, and that's what we try and do. But even so, it's still getting more difficult to coax them out.
Absolutely.
Okay, can we pass it over? Pass the expensive piece of equipment.
I really didn't want to use this thing. I'm loud enough anyway. But I run 11 IT junctions across Worthing and Ada, and a lot of those are new. They're all in deprived areas. They are, and I totally take on board what you were saying about the easy pickings. We've been running for a number of years, and what I'm finding now is that I'm actually going out looking at new ways of being able to get people to come on board. And what we're doing is we're saying it's not just about IT. It's not. It's about social well-being. It's about welfare. It's about looking at people's needs as a whole, and not just about their digital skills, because that is only part of it. The biggest thing is getting their fear overcome and getting them through the door, and then being able to work on their digital skills, which is proving to actually be very successful now. So much so that I want to say to Leigh, please, can we have some more volunteers? Because we do need more people, because having Lloyds volunteers which come through are then able to train up our volunteers more, because not all of them have the full digital skills, but they have the people skills, where they can look at, you know, the more holistic approach as opposed to the digital approach. I was going to say about the lovely new website, and obviously we've just had Get Online Week, which I'm still recovering from, doing many, many hours of going around all of the centres and getting everybody ready for them. When we were signing everybody up, regardless of whether they've used a computer at all in their life, or they could actually have a email account and do shopping online but need to learn about other things, Excel, Word and such forth, it always comes up with the same program. It doesn't give them a choice. And this is what was frustrating to them, because straight away when they saw that, oh, learn to use my computer, they go, well, I know how to use my computer. I want to learn something specific. So maybe, being so fabulous like you are, could you please look at maybe giving a choice of, would you like to learn this, this or this as your starting course, rather than just going, oh, let's learn the computer. I know how to use the computer. And then I'm sitting there going to them, yeah, I know. If you just go through that bit though, we can get to the bit you want to go into your special interests. So it came up. We tried with every single one. Every single time it came up with exactly the same course start idea.
Okay. I fully understand that, and I suppose when I was talking about understanding the individual and sort of tailoring stuff to their needs, and I think where we got to in September is only the start, and we're still iterating.
I totally understand that. That's why I'm just feedbacking now while I've got you here.
And we absolutely want to make it more personal to people, so that it starts at the point at which they need to start.
Yeah.
And just watch the space. We'll be doing
We'll be watching.
Brilliant. We're running out of time. I'll take one more comment or question before we move on.
Which one do?
Thank you.
Hi. We work on a project about helping people with learning disabilities to have more, to have a better dialogue with people who provide services and local authorities. And we found that there are, we're developing a tool to do that, but there are also a lot of other great apps to help people with learning disabilities. But the massive problem we've come across is that a lot of people don't have access to a device to do that on, whether it's in a day service, a residential service. There are a lot of people who don't have anything to use to do that. And obviously it can make a massive impact on somebody's life if they can have a device that means they can communicate. And I just wondered if anyone is aware or has got any advice on how we might sort of look at that problem.
Looks like there's someone here who wants to feed back to you.
It's called community payback. You basically find a large company, something like a large pharmaceutical company, and you find somebody in that company that you can talk to, get past the receptionist. And the large companies, literally, multinationals, you will have one within 50 miles. You go to them and you say, look, this is basically about giving some payback into your community. The laptops, when they get to about 2.5, 3 years old, they just ship them out. It's basically, especially pharmaceutical companies, they have to be clean because the Sarbanes business with the pharmaceutical companies, so they clean them within an inch of their life. And you get laptops that are really nice, and they will ship them and give them to you. They don't want any advertising, but they will basically take them off your hands and you can distribute them in your community.
Okay, so that's one solution. And again, do use the hashtag. I'm aware that we've had to wrap this discussion up before it really got going, but I do want everyone to be able to enjoy what Helen is about to say. So can we hear it for our panel?